Welcome to KneeToKnee. I'm your host, Mark Marrott. This is the show built on one idea. The right connections don't just improve your life, they reframe it entirely. Today's guest is Ryan Reichert. He's a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel who had everything a resume is supposed to promise and found himself completely alone. He had a Fortune 500 job, a multi-six-figure pay, and not a single person he could call and say, "I'm just not doing great today." On a quick note, if this is the kind of honest conversation that you've come here for, I encourage you to hit the like on this episode and subscribe to KneeToKnee so you don't miss what's coming. The guests we have on our podcast are the real thing and great conversations. For today, Ryan is going to talk to us about his post-military identity loss, the brotherhood he rebuilt from scratch, his work with Bravo Zulu House, which is the first all-veteran sober house in the country, and a 6-step kindness habit that came out of his TEDx Duluth talk this last February. This one gets honest fast and stays there. Welcome again, and let's get knee to knee with Ryan. Welcome to KneeToKnee. I'm excited today to have Ryan with us. We're going to just jump right in, Ryan, and appreciate you taking the time. I know it's for both of us, it's kind of early on a Saturday morning that we're recording this. So, let's get going.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
So Ryan, in the intro, we talk a little bit about your background and things, but what I'm really interested to get us talking about initially is where you talk about the breaking point, where you describe that you're built to break. What does that look like? I mean, you retired as a lieutenant colonel, if I remember correctly. And so what does that look like? I mean, you were kind of moving along in your career, doing great. Everything looked awesome, at least from what I've seen and read. So what does that mean for us?
Yeah, I think for everybody, it's having the mindset that you're going to have things in life that come along that are going to break you, but you have to build your mind around that. And so in the military, I was able to curb it enough with wanting to sustain the rank and continue the forward progress and everything else. And so when I retired in 2022, it ended up becoming an identity shift or identity crisis in what life was like post-military, and realizing that, how do I put this in the kindest, most gentlest way, that where my civilian job, my civilian life did not personify that. I had obviously the Fortune 500 job with the title and an amazing, multi six figure pay and so on and so forth. But it ended up just not being fulfilling on that side. So then, therefore, it just started to spiral out of control. And so that built to break is basically where you have to be able to see the good and the bad. And I could do that. I was in the military, but for some reason, when I transitioned out, I think it was because I didn't have that brotherhood, that camaraderie of who was I doing it for.
Right.
And it comes down to it really, I didn't have my foundation that I have today in my spirituality and my ability to just persevere no matter what. Cause I think we wake up in the morning and I don't want to do this. Just like you said, it's early on a Saturday morning. Neither of us probably initially were like, man, did we schedule that today? Oh, why did we do that?
I'm gonna tell
And
you, that's what I felt like when my alarm went off this morning. It was like, oh man.
exactly. So it's that shift. And so today I realize that nothing that I'll go through in life is going to break me. It's going to be a new challenge or a lesson that turns into a blessing, that I always say now, even those hardest things, my past of, going through divorce and, active recovery with my addictions. And it's so cool because things come back. Your children come back into your life. You have a meaningful career again. And it's one where I want to be plugged into society. And that's where, in that service, I can see really being who I once was. And it's a holistic entity versus a Fortune 500 job that has an amazing title and pay. There's so much more to it, and I think I always went down just one rabbit hole and it was the professional side of it. What did I identify with? So
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when you talk about what came to mind as you were talking is finding that spot in our lives where we are willing to accept the new normal, right? Because the moment if we're constantly looking back in that rearview mirror, it's hard to accept where we're at and what's happening. And so, it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me when you came out of the military, which is it's an amazing brotherhood, right? And so there's a lot of great things that, with that camaraderie there. That's a hard transition, I think, to make into the corporate world, because as you mentioned, you don't have that now. Instead of having this group of people, you're on the same mission, the same focus. Often you feel that you're flying solo in that particular aspect. So
yeah,
how did you manage that piece, right? Because that goes from the I'm feeling like great because I've got a bunch of people around me that we all have the same thing, that then you're moving into that real loneliness side of things where you feel like you're by yourself.
oh yeah, you hit it on the head there. I mean, it's completely lonely, the loneliest I'd ever been. So I self isolated, ran from everything instead of talking about it or confronting it, or
Yeah,
at least the facade was there. And that's the thing today. I mean, I surround myself with so many different groups, especially, men to men, and then
right.
also being a, mentor or a leader or a battle buddy to, other men, younger men, and teaching and so forth. And so I've basically all the things that I think I probably wanted to do either in the military or in those first few years out of retirement from the military. I'm doing that today and my cup's overflowing. I realized that's what it took instead of me just pouring out, pouring out, pouring out, that you have to take a breath and kind of allow your cup to be refilled. And I think for most people that I work with today, it's the service, it's the giving back, it's plugging into the community. And it is for, as men, it's extremely lonely because we think we have to do it all ourselves and we cannot ask for help. And that's certainly taken me some time to actually ask for help, but I realize now that that's where it is really at to go, hey, I'm not having the best day to, a number of the guys that I can reach out to and they're like, yeah, let me hop on a call with you real quick. Let's talk about it. Let's actually acknowledge those feelings that even as men we have our
Right.
emotions, the highs and lows of them, right? And so it it's just kind of finally like maturing emotionally and growing up a bit and finding that we can't do it alone. So therefore you have to ask for help. That's my biggest one to anybody out there listening or watching is you have to ask for help. And then you got to be cognizant of your buddies around you and ask them, not if, hey, how you doing? Cause we're always going to say fine. I
Yeah, of
mean, it's
course. Yeah, I'm good, man. Yeah, thanks for asking. That's nice of you.
and now you go a little bit deeper, like, hey, like, how's your week going? Can you give me like, one high and like two lows? And everyone's like, well, why would you only ask for one high? It's like, because the highs don't matter. The highs are always going to come and go, but the lows, they stick around. Those are the ones that, don't leave your side, or at least they don't leave mine, where I get on replay, kind of like you said, looking in the rearview mirror and having to accept that and leave it back there. I think Jelly Roll has a song, right, where the windshield's bigger for a reason or something. And so
Yeah,
we
yeah.
got to look forward to what's coming and what's actually right in front of us in the present moment. So I love that you brought that up, and yeah, accepting it now, you can really take on what your life is supposed to look like.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right there. I was thinking about, um, in my day job, I work for a software company that has a bunch of staffing agencies that they own. And it's interesting because as we have our operations teams that go to try and fill these orders from customers that they're trying to find, let's say a forklift operator. And I always joke with the clients to say, 95% of men will say that we can drive a forklift. And why? Because we've been conditioned since we were young to figure it out. Right. But actually driving a forklift is a whole different ballgame. Right. And so we have to be willing to, and so as a screening method, I tell our teams to just ask one question. When the last time they were on a forklift, how did they turn it on? And so that'll weed that day. All of a sudden you're down to maybe 10% of the guys, right? But really, when you get down to it, we all have been conditioned to just figure it out, right? We're the fix it guys. We're the go do this. And so I think so often that we forget that while we might be running out there and trying to stop and fix everything around us, I think the most important thing is that we need to just stop and take a minute to fix this, right? We have to stop and, okay, where am I at? Because if we don't do that, we can't serve others and fix the other things that are in our lives if we're not in a good place ourselves.
Yeah. No, that's spot on. I love the forklift, because yeah, it's not, there was a day I worked in a lumberyard all through college, and sure, I could drive a forklift, but that was 25 years ago. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if I could turn it on today.
It's just, it's little things like that, if we stop and think about it, do we actually know how to do, and I use the forklift just as in this sense, a metaphor, right? But use that as an example of how many other areas of our lives that are we just winging it and not finding ourselves as whether we're men or just people in general, understanding what we're stepping into to be able to best help and support others as well. I love the fact that you're a part of so many different things, that you've kind of moved from that corporate world, the corporate 500, into these other groups. Tell us about some of the groups and what you're doing within those that have really helped buoy you up and help you out.
Yeah, I think initially when I look back, just I was in the military, I was like, oh yeah, I'll join this group or that group when I retire and everything else. And that didn't kind of happen. And so it was really interesting. You had to have kind of the complete redo, knock the entire house down and build it back up. So it really started with, for me, going back to church and finding myself serving in that community. And so, yeah, I teach junior boys at Eagle Brook Church here in Plymouth, Minnesota. There's also the Hennepin County mentor mentee, I like to say battle buddy program,
Yeah.
but it's a veteran sport program. And yeah, someone's going through. It's really interesting as I think back, because when I was 18, the first rugby tournament that I played down here in Minneapolis, I was arrested. And so I ended up having to go to Hennepin County Courthouse circa 1997, I think it would have been now today. So being back there as a battle buddy for those that are having to go through that and go, I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
That's not where I ended up today. I can look back and maybe I didn't learn from that time in court and what I went through with what I got in trouble for. But today, being able to help those guys that are going through, because you just need somebody in the foxhole with you, right? To say,
Right.
hey, we'll figure this out together, and we can go from there. There's another group, actually just became an advisor for, it's called Marcus. It's a AI tool, basically. Marcus Aurelius taking on that side of things, and it is focused for men because, just like we're talking about here, we struggle with talking to anyone, let alone another man. And so this is a tool that allows us to communicate with basically a multitude of different avenues when it comes to where are you at? Where do you need more? Do you need to be more of the warrior, versus the poet and the lover and so on and so forth
Okay.
in your overall development? There's also one that's very, very close to my heart. It's called Bravo Zulu House in Winnebago, Minnesota. And it's the first all veteran sober house in the nation. And it
Okay.
becomes where they've paired up with the Mayo Clinic in Rochester and basically fighting addiction and PTSD. Because with PTSD, addiction becomes, for me, I mean, I'm kind of the poster child when I think about it. And you just go to like, how do I fill this hole inside of me? And so for me, it was my alcohol and prescription drugs and the abuse that I had there. And it's just really neat to see as they've built that out and continue to fill the beds there. That next year they'll have an all women's one in Mankato, Minnesota. So Minnesota will be locked in, and now it's taking it to all the other states. So our veterans have a place that they can call home and get healthy and get the right uh, holistic approach to it, because I certainly know for me that the medication side wasn't the answer when it came to working with my PTSD and dealing with that. I had to take on a more holistic approach like they do down there with Bravo Zulu House. And so, yeah, it's been an amazing journey to this point to finally be tied in with the community, be of service, and that, filling me back up.
That's that I'm very interested in the Bravo Zulu House, right? Because I think when it comes to our service men and women, there's a lot of struggle once they get out of the military and finding their place. Whether we saw this during the Vietnam War, and when everybody got out of the Vietnam War, how many service members struggled, and then you see it in the next. It's every time we come out of a bad time in the service, whether when they're battling wherever we're at in the world. It's a real struggle to see some of those service members come out and have a hard time. I grew up in the military. I'm an Army brat. And so a little bit more attuned to that just because military is all around us, right? In our families. So you've taken everything that broke you and built a mission around us. Talk about what you're doing, this mission that you're doing, that you're presenting forward for everybody, and how that works.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Only through more loss did this become. I ended up in the middle of my divorce, or our divorce, I guess, finding myself being laid off from said job and realizing that I don't know if this is what I want to keep doing. And in it, started Our Protector LLC, which has turned into Our Protector Legendary Leadership Companies, which overall is Our Protector Development. And a lot of people are like, it's because you're in the army, right? And I'm like, well, sure,
Uh,
that's the science side of it, but for me, it is, it's our God, it's Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit, and it's really this faith journey of finding the lost, leaving the 99 for the one. And I think
yeah,
that's kind of what we've talked about this entire time is realizing for most people when yeah, I remember Ryan, like he did this, he did that, like he seemed to have it all together, and go, yeah, we all have it together until we don't. And I don't believe I ever really had it together. I always was holding that scared, lost little boy inside and trying to protect him. So today, that is our mission, right? Is to turn that pain into purpose through, have multiple books at this point, or book series, online courses, giving back as much as possible to the community, co-host a podcast, Our Healer, Our Protector. So with myself and Lisa Sanders, she's a nurse of 26 years here in the greater Twin Cities area of Minnesota. And we're just here to try to mend what's broken, right? Like it's
right.
that side of it where you're building yourself to a place where all these painful things that happen in our lives or have happened in our life, you're able to continue to see the good in everything, see the good in others, see the good in yourself. And I think that to me is realizing I probably was always very hard on myself for the things that, we have to do when we're asked to go spend 42 months across the pond, and what happens in those situations. The survivor's guilt that you have because of the brothers that you've lost, and then also, the other things that you've had to do, and carrying that shame, that guilt, and what does that look like. And it's, I guess, to tell those out there listening and watching is, you had to do what you had to do because you're in those situations, and that doesn't define you. It doesn't bring you into a place that of shame or guilt or necessary hurt. It's to let it go and to find out where you can help others once you're strong enough to carry that and help carry it for others as well. And that to me today is what Our Protector Development's all about. It's about thinking about myself when I started drinking at 12 years old and seeing the little boys, little men today that I teach, and go, man, I hope by where they're at, and I believe they're in the right place, that, they won't have to go down Whereas deep down, the places where I went when it comes to some
Yeah.
of their struggles, because they have a more solid foundation. Their fathers are able to, coach, teach, mentor them as they continue to grow. And I think that's the thing of like listening, being a better listener is probably my biggest takeaway when I think about interacting even with my own children and the things that I missed over those years because I wanted to tell them how to do things versus
Right.
listening to where they were at and then showing them, actions speak louder than words today to see where the girls are at. And I don't have to tell them anything anymore. I just have to live the way I'm living because it's a healthy way, a healthy lifestyle today where it wasn't before. And so, yeah, it's an amazing gift to have and a great journey to be on today.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. That's some great little nuggets in there that I'm hoping that our listeners can, really draw out upon and help them with. But we're gonna get to where I wrap up here a little bit, but I'm gonna ask you the one question, and I think you saw that in the email. So the one question that we ask everybody is, what is one thing that our listeners can do today to build deeper connections with those around?
Yeah, this is for me. I laugh because you never know how you go down this road. A TEDx Duluth talk in February, and it's kindness, a 6-step method to transform our lives. And it looks like step one, you smile, make
Okay.
eye contact with the person. Step two is please. Step three is thank you. Step four is excuse me. Step five is I'm sorry. And step six is repeat that all day long. It creates the butterfly effect that we all need in life to be kind. And we don't realize that it's like, wow, that's so simple. And it is, but you need to be intentional and you need to make it a habit. So every person that you come across, I challenge everyone today now to make eye contact and smile. And then the rest of it takes care of itself once you do that.
Right.
It really,
Yeah.
really does. And you see like a person's face soften, you see them smile back. And if they don't smile right away, like that's where it's always like, hey, good morning. How's your day going? Like in a peppy, you know, this happened to me the night at the grocery store. I was leaving and probably was, kicking rocks kind of thing for whatever reason and had my head down. And when I looked up, the person smiled at me and was like, how's your day going? And I was like, smiled right back. It brought me right back to, being present and knowing life is better than you believe it is. And so that to me today is just how I want to leave the world is making it as kind as possible. And just remember a smile changes not only how you feel, but everybody around you. And so
I
smile.
agree. I agree. And I think we need to keep in mind as well along those lines is you are going to smile and say, how's your day going to people that really don't want to interact. And don't let that stop you, right? You just continue on with the next person and the next person because you will run into those. I think back to a day when, and I mentioned this on one of our past episodes, I was fueling up at a gas station up in southern Idaho, and this old cowboy comes walking past me. And I'm like, hey, how are you? And he was just basically, I don't give an F. I mean, he was just, and I go, wait, is that bad? And he goes, well, I gave up hope a long time ago. Life's easier. And he just walked off. And I went, oh my gosh, right? So don't give up. You're going to have those people. Hopefully, it won't be as bad as the cowboy was, but you'll have those people. And I think it's really important. And thank you for sharing that. And I do challenge our listeners as well to make eye contact and smile. And I think you'll be really, really surprised at the result that you get from the vast majority of people. So, well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on and spending a few minutes with us. And those of you that have joined us, thank you as well for listening to the end. And we sure appreciate all you do. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. The normal stuff. We want to be able to get this message and these messages out to as many people, as many men as we can to provide some great content for them. So, thank you again, Ryan, for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you on the next go around. Thanks.